with anything like that. And at the Summit of the Horse, I met Trent Luce and a bunch of other good people, and they enlightened me to the fact that what I was experiencing was an arm of the left known as the animal rights movement. And how many people here love their animals? Love your animals, okay? I do too. I've built my entire life around my animals. And I think I qualify as loving them, and I will, every dollar I can generate goes into taking better care of my animals. But I still am going to eat eggs and cheese and beef and chicken and turkey, okay? And what it turns out that I am not an animal rightsist, even though I would have thought I was before I met Trent Luce and he enlightened me. I'm an animal welfareist. I think that animals don't have rights. We have responsibilities to take care of animals at a minimum standard of care. Okay? If we're going to have animals in captivity and own them, then we need to be responsible for taking care of them. But animals don't have rights, in my mind, where I'm at this point in the game. And that put me at odds with a great number of people. So I encourage you to sort that out in your own mind, in your own heart, because the Lord used that opportunity to show me that I had elevated animals to a higher position of prestige than they actually deserved. Okay, when we have to, it's a problem in America when you can be fined $10,000 for having a bald eagle feather, but it's okay to let a baby that was living from a botched abortion lay on the countertop until it dies. That's a problem. That's a big, big moral, ethical problem. We have to be very careful about the position that animals hold in our life, because I'm telling you what I've experienced, and this might sound a little radical to you, they're not going to be happy until we're all worshiping the beast. Okay? That's what they're after. And we're not going to go there. We are absolutely not going to go there. We're going to hold the line and take our country back, and we're going to fight for it. And you've got to get involved. We need people to get involved. Again, if I can do this, anyone can. Get involved. Get on your local central committee. Get on your local school board. Go to your commissioner meetings. Get involved. Know what your inalienable rights actually are, because that's the only way you're going to be able to protect them, is if you know them. And the Constitution, this little book right here, this is the supreme law of the land. And let me tell you, we make a lot of unconstitutional laws at the state level, I'm telling you. So you need to know this, so that when somebody comes at your door and says, you're breaking the law, or I want to do a search, I want to search your home because the neighbor gave an anonymous call and said you're abusing your kids, you can say, no, the Fourth Amendment says I'm protected from illegal searches and seizures. You come back with a warrant if you want to search my home. Okay? That's the reason I got involved with politics, was because people were having their animals confiscated from them without proper due process. I never would have believed that people are having their children confiscated from them without proper due process. But that's going on every day in Montana. And you need to know about it, and we need to fix it. And that's become what the Lord has laid on my heart as my path. So I thank you, Trent, for having me and allowing me to speak. And I think he's going to give me the hook and get me off of here. But God bless you, and thank you.
Actually, we were going to have an entire program, but Teresa Manzella just told you everything we're going to say in 2 hours. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Teresa. I mentioned that this is a divine moment. It is a divine time for us. We have this happen all the time. And on Thursday evening in John Day, Oregon, a guy walked in the parking lot. He walked up to me and he said, "Hi, Trent." And I said, "Hello, Abe." And he's still here. He showed up everywhere that we've been, and he's got a word or two that I think we should all take to heart. Lincoln Bob.
Thank you, Trent. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met here on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of it as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate. We cannot consecrate. We cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us, the living, to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
It's not really Abe Lincoln. It just looks like Abe Lincoln. Bob Jackson Minor, ladies and gentlemen, how about a round of applause? The guy just showed up. He said, I want to do that. I did want to follow up on something that Senator Manzella said just before we introduced Robert David Steele, and that is that, you know, we do have a serious problem in people not respecting human lives compared to animals. Interestingly, we started, Dave, with the dog up here in the prayer, and they're part of our lives, but you don't put them on top of humans. We have 42 million babies aborted around the world every year, and people pass more legislation to protect the animal than they do the person. In fact, I knew it was really messed up when I found out that more adult Americans sleep with their pet than another adult American, which should only be a good idea in San Francisco, if you ask me. So anyway, with that said, the whole concept of why we are here today in Missoula County is because the guy sitting in his basement said, he took these words that Bob just shared with us, he took them literal, and he said, for the people, by the people. We have to go to the people. Robert David Steele said, Trent, we got to load up on buses and we got to go where they are and get them engaged, just like Teresa started the entire program in their communities. And the reason that we make that happen is a guy, a former Marine, former spy, and now the coordinator of the tour that's going to change this world and the nation, Robert David Steele.
Well, I'm going to modify. Is this working? All right, I'm going to modify the program a little bit today. Obviously, this is a God thing. And Now I'll start with these bells. No, I'll tell you what, I'll start somewhere else. I'm an intelligence officer, you know that. And I think about how to fix things. And I was initially an intelligence reformer. Then I realized I couldn't do that without reforming the government. Then I realized that a corrupt Congress was beyond reform unless we had election reform. So in 2008, I wrote a book called Election 2008, Lipstick on the Pig. And that's when Miss Piggy, who was in disguise, came into my life. This is your government, federal, state, and local. And no amount of lipstick is going to fix this pig. But over time, I've become more sophisticated and I've gotten some more powerful friends. So let me just summarize, because I'm doing something completely new today. Let me just summarize the three big problems. Election fraud is how Wall Street gets a Congress that indemnifies them for treason and crime. And let there be no doubt in your mind, Wall Street is guilty of treason because they are collaborating with Great Britain, Israel, China, and other countries to undermine the U.S. economy and U.S. society. Great Britain is not our friend. Now, Wall Street uses a crooked Congress, including a crooked Department of Justice and a crooked FBI at the highest levels. 80% of these people are my friends. They're good people trapped in a bad system. To let Wall Street get away with stealing $1 trillion in the last 20 years from widows and orphans and pension funds, while also laundering $100 trillion from trafficking in women and children and drugs and other things. Satanic pedophilia, for which I have both a website and a movie, are how they keep all of this together. So let me just give you the good news. And that's why me being a former spy I've had all the NSA crypto clearances. We have every email, every text chat, every phone call, and every banking transaction, not only for every traitor, white-collar criminal, and pedophile, but for every federal, state, and local official that has cheated us. They will not survive the next 3 years unless they make the deal. Now, I'm huge on truth and reconciliation. I'm huge on nonviolence. But every corrupt federal, state, and local official ought to be thinking about their exit strategy right now. Now, this tour is a God thing. I'm technically unemployed on Social Security, although I'm eligible for a government pension. I can't get it unless I go back into the government. Doesn't matter. That's a trivial thing. Juan Savin and I were in the Trump Tower, Trump Hotel, having dinner. We've had about 8 or 9 personal face-to-face meetings, and no, he is not John F. Kennedy Jr. And yes, I do think John F. Kennedy Jr. is alive, as is Jeffrey Epstein. But Juan told me, he said, Robert, I know you got nothing else to do, so why don't you create a tour and be at Mount Rushmore on the 4th of July? Yes, Juan. I announced the tour. I took my first $100 donation on the 14th of March, and 8.5 weeks later, I had $850,000 in our nonprofit account. And then I set off on this course. Now, we still need $500,000 because gas money and all this stuff is a thing. But I've accounted for how I have spent your $1.4 million. And by the way, that's 10,000 patriots at $100 each, plus a few people that gave a couple of chunks. Mount Rushmore is going to be epic, but we're also going to be doing 50 more stops after Mount Rushmore, including one in Pennsylvania that will be just as epic. And there will be a drive-by at Mar-a-Lago. Now, again, it's a God thing. Someone sent me this. This hat was gifted to me by a great lady, Kathy Smith, the beloved widow of Bert Smith, a great man in Utah and in the Mormon Church. And this hat came from Bert Smith's store. And I'm going to wear this hat for the rest of my life to remind myself that I found Jesus and goodness in the heartland, not to be found on the East and West Coast, not to be found in the cities. We have to come back to the heartland. So somebody, I don't know who, gave me these two things, A More Perfect Union and Miracles in God We Trust. The creation of the United States of America was a miracle. The destruction of the United States of America over the last 200 years has been a satanic Luciferian, what my black friends would call hot mess. We got to fix this. Now, I don't think of myself as a leader. I think of myself as an educator. And my most important motto is the truth at any cost lowers all other costs. Well, let me tell you what the truth is. I did my first graduate thesis on predicting revolution. CIA still has not mastered it. And by the way, CIA, I'm a former spy saying don't send spies where a schoolboy can go. And CIA hates that because I can do more at lower cost than the CIA can on just about any topic, okay? This is my original thesis on predicting revolution. Every single condition of revolution exists in the United States of America today, among the top ones being isolation of the elites, concentration of wealth, acceptance of media distortions, and loss of faith in the legitimacy of the government. Every single one of these conditions exists in the United States of America today. Now, I'm feeling like we are going to be nonviolent. I do believe that our President, Donald Trump, will come back because the fraud is going to be revealed. CIA created the artificial intelligence staff around me in 1986, not because I'm a technical genius, but because I could break technical heads. And I will absolutely guarantee you Sidney Powell is going to kick Dominion's ass. The dominoes are going to fall. Now, what I decided to do today is go over how we restore the Constitution by 2024. And I'm going to do this very quickly because there's a lot of material to cover. But I want this on the video record. We are in this pickle because we stopped paying attention. We let them dumb us down and drug us up. We stopped respecting the Constitution. And one of the reasons I think Sheriff Mack is the second most important man in America after President Donald Trump is because he has brought forth the idea of constitutional counties. That's where, to take one example, Sheriff Brad Rogers is approached by an Amish farmer. The federal government is harassing this farmer, trying to force him to sell his land so big agriculture can buy it. Sheriff Brad Rogers, after satisfying himself that the Amish farmer was doing everything correctly, sent one email to the federal government. You come to my county, you're going to see the inside of my county jail. 1 week later, the federal government backed off, gave the farmer a quitclaim, and that's the end of that. Now, one of the things I love about elected constitutional sheriffs is they can deputize citizens. Now, I earned this Marine Corps pin. I gave both knees for my country. I don't play militia dress up. I think you are the militia. And I particularly love armed women. Mothers and grandmothers who are packing and riding Harleys are the God's blood of America. Now, very quickly on the Constitution, and everything I talk about you will find at bigbatusa.org under the library page. First Amendment. No commercial entity such as Google, Gestapo may censor anyone. Internet is a public universal service, and any manipulation of data in this public network is a felony. Second Amendment. Concealed carry approved nationwide, and PTSD and other pharmaceutical guises for depriving veterans, particularly. End the police state and shut down the Department of Homeland Security, which is a Zionist deep state enterprise. It is a RICO organization. Fourth Amendment, terminate all mass surveillance, terminate the ability of the federal government to impose local cell towers and harm of 5G technology on any local or state jurisdiction. Fifth Amendment, end all mandatory arbitration clauses and other variations, restore the right to fair and free trial by jury as well as class action lawsuits across all commercial tort categories. Also, restore to the Fifth Amendment the right of presentment, which is where you can form a grand jury and tell any public official you will have I got a little angel on my head that keeps cleaning up my language. You will present yourself to a public grand jury, and you will account for how you have spent this money and what your actions have been. And remember now, NSA has every email, every cell call, every banking transaction. We have these people. We have them. And I believe that President Trump declassified a great deal of this material on the 19th of January. And I believe that the 5,000 National Guardsmen that we made deputy U.S. Marshals have not been de-marshalized. They've been farming out across the country. And the reason we have no violence is because I think everyone's making the deal. Ninth Amendment, move the U.S. Postal Service as the provider of free emails to all citizens, such that citizenship and voter status are embedded in the email, a form of HTTPS for individuals. We should test national, state, and local ballots where citizens can vote on a line item. Simple example, in Idaho, I think it was, or maybe Illinois, $20 million were allocated to turn a county airport into a Learjet-capable airport. They didn't need it. It turned out some fat cat that didn't like to drive 5 hours to inspect one of his factories bribed a congressman to put that $20 million into the legislation so that he could fly his Learjet in to inspect his factory. That kind of stuff is going on all the time. Our foreign aid is Wall Street bribing foreign officials. When we give $60 million to Pakistan, that money is a Wall Street bribe using your money to bribe Pakistani military officers. It does not get down to where its intended purpose. All right? 10th Amendment, narrowly limit the role of the federal government in global matters. Eliminate regulations sponsored by the deep state in favor of constitutional counties. We have killed small town butchers because Big Ag wants small town butchers killed. We need to get back to family farms and villages and so forth, and I do have a plan for that. 12th Amendment, enact Unrig the Election Reform Act with all 12 provisions. 13th Amendment, expand definition of slavery to include all forms of financial and digital indentureship. Focus on assuring individual sovereignty in all its forms, including anonymity, identity, privacy, and security. 27th Amendment, forbid Congress from having pay scales and benefits that are different from the rest of us. Now, this is the final part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 amendments must be reversed. The 11th Amendment, end sovereign immunity and begin to hold both elected officials and bureaucrats accountable for fraud, waste, and abuse. 14th Amendment, end birth tourism, Asian as well as other. Refuse to grant visas or citizenship to those who cannot produce complete police records from their home country. 16th Amendment, terminate the right of the federal government to collect any tax in any guise, and terminate the right of the federal government to borrow and print money that is mortgaging our future generations. 17th Amendment, reverse the election of senators by the public and restore state sovereignty. I want to point out that the 16th and 17th Amendments may never have been ratified. 22nd Amendment, reverse limitations on the president. I have no problem with Donald Trump serving 3 terms. 25th Amendment, reverse the automatic assumption of the presidency by the vice president. All right, I can see Trent wanting to give me the hook, so I'll just tell you a quick story about this. I will not show you the slides. You can find them at the library, but it basically shows you how we take back the power with USA 99. These were loaned to us in Ogden, Utah, the same place that gave me this great hat to remember the homeland by. The heartland and the homeland. So this used to be something you listened for and you gave right away, but eventually it became a sign of righteousness. People would be given a gift of bells for doing righteous things. This tour is a God tour. It's your tour, and as God is my witness, it is righteous to the end.
Robert David Steele and his pig. Get your pig out of here. Lipstick on my cheek. Where's your piggy bank? Robert, where's your piggy bank?
Oh, over there.
Okay, afterwards, Robert will be over there. Right there with the flags. Of course, it's in the shade. So you can go see Robert over there later. Sheriff Richard Mack is going to be up next. Richard, you're making your way up here. One thing I might just point out, the historical significance of June 28th, 1776. Everybody know what happened? It was the day that we finalized and presented the Declaration of Independence, leading to the 4th day of July, 1776. So it was a week-long process, and all of that independence was about county control, local government, representative republic, and the guy who brings it all front and center. And what 200, I don't know what my math is, Richard, 1776 to today, 245 years later, the path that we get back to what the Founding Fathers had under the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution is the constitutional counties. And the man who's making it happen is Constitutional Counties and Peace Officers Association founder, Sheriff Richard Mack. With his bells.
Did everybody catch that? Why is that there? I think he looks like a great Santa Claus. Yeah. But anyway, I'm really... Okay, I think I got it now. Well, if you're not going to help me, then what's something wrong? Okay, no. Everybody, yesterday I said that this kind of weather for this Arizona boy was a tiptoe through the tulips. I'm not saying that today. This is too hot. So I'm going to try to make it really quick. I don't want you to be out here too much longer than you have to be. And boy, are Montanans dedicated or what? Wow. My hat is off to you. But I can't show you that because my hair's messed up. But it's all right. I love being here. I love part of this tour. I love being part of it. It's an absolute miracle that this is happening. For heaven's sakes, those buses are miracles. I mean, yeah, it's just an amazing miracle that brought all of us here. And back when I was sheriff of Graham County, Arizona, county seat being Safford, in 1994, I launched a lawsuit against the federal government. I actually sued the Clintons. And guess who joined me? Sheriff Jay Prince from Ravalli County, Montana, Hamilton. Yes. And when I was actually on my way to work when I heard the CBS Morning News that another sheriff filed a lawsuit against the federal government, against the Clinton administration. And I believe that Jay really saved me, because for 5 weeks I was all by myself on this, and I was just so afraid that the Clintons were going to take care of me like you know how they take care of people. And you know, the real miracle is that Jay and I, Sheriff Prince and I, sued the federal government, sued the Clintons, and we lived to tell about it. Yeah! And this was all about stopping the overreach of government. And that lawsuit gave birth to what Trent just said, to the CSPOA. And I have one of our pamphlets here, and a membership pamphlet that all of you can become members of this great association that is creating constitutional counties all across the country. And the first thing that we focused on with that is to create constitutional sheriffs, thus our name, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Do you know how this will never work? If you're not involved. The first three words of the Constitution, we the people. This is your government. You're in charge. We the people bestow all power on our government. We authorize all their power. We delegate to them the power that we already have. And we cannot delegate to them powers that we do not have. For instance, do you have the authority to kill a baby in the womb? No, you do not. And you cannot delegate that to government. Do you know that you cannot delegate power to your government to take money from this group and give it to this group? Do you have the authority to go take money from your neighbor and then go give it to another neighbor? Oh, no, what if that other neighbor really needs it? You still can't do it. You do not have the authority to take money from one person and give it to another because you think that other person needs it more than that first person does. Doesn't matter who needs it. The criteria is this: do you have the authority? And if you don't have the power to do it, then government can't have the power, because we're the ones that bestow that. Do you know that we the people decide just about every single criminal case and civil case in this entire country? We have the final say. And we also have the final say in every single thing that government does. They were right. Robert was right. We have fallen asleep, and it's time to wake up. I am Paul Revere, and I'm riding through this entire tour to wake you up. It's time to get up, folks. Now, there's a very unique situation in your county. Your sheriff only has one boss. One. And it's you. It's the people. He has no other supervisor. The county commissioners cannot tell him what to do. The county attorney can't tell him what to do. The governor can't tell your sheriff what to do. Can your sheriff go along willingly? Yes, he can. Should he? No. It's not, the governor's not your sheriff's boss. He is only appointed to you. You pay his salary, and you say how long he stays. That is extreme power. Use it wisely. Now, the Constitution is the whole gist of our entire government. But you know what? You can boil that down to one little sentence. The Constitution does this. It makes sure that no one in government can hurt you or take your stuff. So don't hurt me, don't take my stuff. There's your Constitution in a nutshell. Thomas Paine wrote about that. He said, what difference does it make who steals my stuff, who kills me or threatens to kill me, whether it be a king or an army, whether it be my countryman or whether it not be my countryman, whether it be a highwayman or just a common thief or a street gang or a whole army of government officials. What difference does it make to me which group takes my stuff, takes my home, takes my children, and ruins my business? But even then, do we have any authority in this country anywhere to shut your churches down and arrest ministers for having church? No, we do not. Do we have, I don't know, I can't remember what Teresa called it, but did you call it a face diaper? Yeah. You mean they can force our children to wear a face diaper, and they can force all of us, and they can destroy all of our businesses, destroy our freedoms and our liberties and our Constitution, and then come and tell you it's for your own good. And if you believe that, I've got beachfront property for you in Omaha, Nebraska, because that is a lie. Go figure, government lying to you. Don't hurt me. Don't take my stuff. And government is here for one reason. And you see that reason in the Declaration of Independence. Right after that part where we're all created equal. All men are created equal. There is no exemption. There is no exemption clause. There is no exception for any race, creed, color, religion. Doesn't matter who your daddy was. Doesn't matter where you live. Doesn't matter where you're from. Freedom, individual liberty, and civil rights are for all God's children, 100% of the time. All my rights, all the time, no exceptions. That's your Declaration of Independence, and that's your Constitution. And our responsibility, Teresa's responsibility as a member of your state legislature, is to do one thing and one thing very well, which I'm proud that she already is. Your sheriff has the same exact duty and responsibility as she has. Keep your oath of allegiance to the Constitution. That's it. And the Declaration of Independence calls it this, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Now, folks, I want you to remember something. Every single one of you here can join the CSPOA. My table's right over there next to the cold water. Okay? I'm no dummy. Okay? Have it by the water. Everybody can join. Everybody can look and see Brad Rogers, Sheriff Rogers in here on our pamphlet. Do you know what he said? A sheriff can and should interpose for his citizens against an overreaching federal, state, and local government. That means he's the good shepherd that stands in the way to protect you from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. One of the greatest enemies that we have in this country is 3 letters, IRS. And if they come into your county to abuse the rights of citizens, your sheriff should kick them the hell out or give them a free night in the county hotel. Yeah. And you know, when we were going through the Second War with England during the War of 1812, John Quincy Adams was asked a very important question, and I'm going to leave it with each of you today. He was asked, can we ever really win this? It's the greatest military power in the entire world. Can we beat England? And he said 6 words, and I leave it with you as our mantra and our goal and the purpose that we have this tour and the CSPOA to create in your county a constitutional county with a constitutional sheriff and a bunch of citizens who simply want to be free and won't stop until you are. John Quincy Adams said this: duty is ours, results are God's. Let's do our duty and leave the rest to him. Thank you so much.
Sheriff Richard Mack, very strategically with cold water right over there, so stop in and see him. Well, Mike is just sitting there, so what's that say about Mike? All right, we're going to move right along. Laura Eisenhower, if you would come up. We had a special treat happen here. Obviously, Laura lives locally, and we had to have the opportunity to say a few words. I don't know if she's going to talk about sovereignty, if she's going to talk about her great-grandfather's myth that we're going to clear up. Where it might go, that's up to her. Ladies and gentlemen, Laura Eisenhower.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. It's really incredible to be here. I can't sort out somebody else's life path or journey, but when truth is being threatened with lies, I feel like we have a responsibility to align ourselves with information that can set the record straight. And I was sort of like that kind of rebellious child that, I don't want to be biased. I don't want to just, because I'm related to somebody. No. They'd be like, oh, what are you, a walk-in? What are you, I'm here for freedom and sovereignty. And, there's a lot that we're healing from as a humanity. And it relates to the planetary grid network. It relates to, all these different things that they've masterminded after the Second World War with things like Project Paperclip and Mockingbird. It's like, how can we regain our sense of sovereignty? And what does that even mean? It doesn't mean we're going to just be able to claim it immediately. We got to go through the dark night of the soul journeys. We got to deprogram. We need to not fall into the conquer and divide agendas, and we need to stay strong with each other and recognize that a lot of the reasons that we're all coming together is because we share a commonality in caring about this earth, our children, our freedom. And there's such a bigger picture here. And I really feel that this is what this group is all about. We're not all going to see things in the same way, even though we're all very like-minded kind of people. But to me, true oneness is diversity and harmony. This is what nature teaches us. Ecosystems are sustained by diversity. It gives us the ability to breathe, wake up with the sun coming up, and connect with spirit guides and animals and herbs and all this and that. Why can't we do that with each other? So we got to drop the political games because, it's really harming us. And I really feel like, we're a group of people that are not just like, fully Republican or just all about the tea guy. We're functioning on a greater principle that unites us, which is the true spirit of the Patriots, which is why we're doing this, you know? And, you know, we're not giving our power over to this person, but we're also appreciating all that he's done in a way that we haven't seen, because the office of the presidency got compromised along the way in such a major way. And yeah, this was an anomaly. This was good news, but it brought us together. Not to fall into that pit, but to be forgiving, loving, compassionate, and recognizing that we stand for a greater integrity that has to do with family, this earth, and standing up for what it means to be sovereign and free. It doesn't mean that anybody has a greater answer over somebody else, but it's like, where's the mutual love and respect? Why hatred? Why toxicity? You know, I think we're all really shattered and traumatized seeing what's going on in the world, and we need to just, you know, understand, yeah, maybe we know more than somebody, maybe we know less than somebody, but where's that common thread of love and respect so that we can thrive as a community without this political jargon causing hatred? And I don't stand for that. I've never voted. They're like, aren't you an Eisenhower? You've never voted? No, sorry. And one of my favorite Eisenhower quotes is, the governments better get out of the way and let people have the peace that they've been seeking, because it's the governments that are really messing with our head. And, you know, I feel like we're team light here, right? We are a part of this greater team. And the team and these other things, you know, are a huge part of it. But you know what? We're not dependent. The sovereignty to me isn't an immediate thing. It's an unwinding of ancestral patterns and programs. And it's a commitment to each other that we can find our spiritual sovereignty and love and respect one another to be able to work with the earth and build community and gardens and healing centers to address the level of mind control and abuses that we've all noticed without judgment. So I'm really grateful. I love you guys. Keeping it short.
Laura Eisenhower, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Laura. While she's talking about that, I just have to say a word or two, because I channeled a dear friend that was actually a mentor of mine when I started doing what I'm doing 21 years ago. And he lives at Libby, Montana. His name is Bruce Vincent. He's a fifth-generation logger, and he's been out explaining that if you don't manage the resource, you have a problem. And I talked to him today, and he told me some things that we need to talk about, particularly while we're in Missoula County, and that is that we are not managing these resources properly. We have now where people are worshiping the creation instead of the creator. And we're not thinning and we're not managing the forest. And Bruce told me that it's now documented that we have more mortality than growth in the forest. Trees dying. They're a sick, diseased death, and they do not allow for new growth to come in. When we stop managing the forest, we have a problem. And he also told me that all of this is predicated by 1910. You know, we think it's hot today, and we think we got all of these unnatural things happening with the weather and the climate. That's not true. We're in weather cycles. And in 1910, there was a storm that came somewhere between here and Coeur d'Alene. The same exact path. You want to talk about divine intervention? The same exact path that we traveled today, there were 1,100 lightning strikes in the forest. And it was considered the summer where the sun did not shine. And lightning strikes started fires in Coeur d'Alene, and it burned to Missoula. And in 36 hours, 3 million acres of forest had been burned and destroyed by 70-mile-an-hour winds that were moving fast and destroyed everything in its path. So what caused that fire? Was it the electricity through the lightning that we know can cause fires? Absolutely, that's what started it. But the Indians, every 10 years, would burn these resources and keep them lower in fuel. And I'm not making an apology for what happened and how this all transpired, but I am saying that we can't make the same mistakes again, because in the same period of one generation of a tree growth, the growth in the forest had outgrew what the Indians were doing in terms of management, and it caused this massive fire. And it's North America's largest fire ever, caused because we did not manage the property properly. And that's all we're asking, is that we get back to management. Back in the day, every one of these towns had a sawmill. And Bruce Vincent from Libby, Montana told me today, right in the line of what we're talking about right here, in Libby, Montana, they're working on bringing back a community-owned sawmill and get the resource back into management and get people using timber and lumber that comes from the great forest with proper management. With all of that said, we've got another addition that has joined us and is going to continue to be with us throughout our trip, 4 stops in Montana. He comes to us from my favorite part of Montana, Sydney, on the eastern side. Of course, I like the prairie. Pastor Jordan Hall. I'll let you have that one. You can take it off if you want.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, and he introduced me as Pastor Jordan Hall. That's right. And this is a weird way to start, but if you're a member of the media, if you're with a legacy press outlet, that means a brick and mortar newspaper, why don't you raise your hand so we can see who you are? Where are you at? I wonder where they're at, because I don't see them. Now, I'm going to ask another question. Raise your hand if you think the media is not our friend. All right, now this is really awkward. I want to introduce myself as the publisher of the Montana Daily Gazette. I want to explain how that came about real quick, but first and foremost, I'm a gospel preacher. I'm what you call an epistemological capitalist. What that means is epistemology is the study of truth. And an epistemological capitalist believes that God's law of supply and demand applies to truth like anything else. So where there is low supply, or whether there's low supply, there's high demand, right? And so we started the Montana Daily Gazette convinced that there is a low supply of honest news in the state of Montana. I'll give you just one example. When Sheriff Mack spoke the other day, the local newspaper, the Daily Interlake, ran a headline reading, anti-government sheriff comes to Montana. Anti-government. Now, you explain to me how an elected government official is anti-government. The headline itself was bearing false witness against thy neighbor. Not only was it one of the most patently untrue headlines I've ever seen, it was one of the dumbest headlines I've ever seen, as it said anti-government sheriff. When here's what the real problem is. I found the media's problem. Now, of course, we all know that Sheriff Mack is not anti-government. He is anti-tyranny. The problem is, to the mainstream media and to the legacy press, tyranny is synonymous with government. There's your problem. Government is not synonymous with tyranny. Government was made by God for a specific purpose. And so let me speak very briefly about how the Montana Daily Gazette came to being. There I am, a pastor in Sydney, Montana, minding my own business. I did have a polemics ministry, meaning that we would talk online, websites, news sites, Christian publishing about bad theology, because we became convinced that the greatest threats to the Christian church don't come from outside the Christian church, but from inside. Because we're warned about wolves who come in sheep's clothing. And so we started paying attention to those wolves in sheep's clothing. But that's all I'm doing in Sydney, Montana, until I find out that a young man founded the College Democrats at Liberty University, had to sue him to get it started. Then he moved to my town way out in the prairie. I live there for a reason. I like to be left alone. He moved to where I lived and immediately ran as a Republican. So I said, enough of this nonsense. I'm going to organize the county. We're going to do what we can to make sure this doesn't happen. So we organized a town hall to call our county commissioners to declare Richland County a sanctuary for gun rights and a sanctuary for the unborn. And I sat down the county sheriff, and I talked to him about this sanctuary issue. Are you going to come get our guns or let them come get our guns? And he said, Jordan, let me ease you of all of your concerns. If the feds ever ask me to confiscate your guns, I will resign immediately. I said, Sheriff, not only did that not ease my concerns, you just admitted in advance to your intention of a dereliction of duty to protect the rights and the people who elected you. That's the problem. That being said, I want to acknowledge that politics is not the ultimate problem. It's only a symptom of the problem. I travel all around the country talking about Marxism and about critical race theory and intersectionality. And all of those are just a symptom of one main underlying problem. And that problem is sin. And the answer to that problem is never ever politics. That answer, his name is Jesus Christ. He's the ultimate solution to the ultimate problem. And so sometimes people say, if you're a preacher, why are you talking about politics? So here it is. I just want about 3 minutes to be able to go through this real quick. And I want you to tell me, am I preaching politics right now, or am I preaching religion? The sixth commandment, let's start with God's law, because if we believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross and rose again, and he did so as a substitutionary atonement on behalf of sinners, that means I can't preach the gospel without talking about sin, right? Without sin, there's no point to a Savior. You with me? So let's talk about God's law right quick. The sixth commandment says, thou shalt not kill. That applies to every human being. And by the way, if you say that a child in the womb is a human, but not a person, then you agree with the Nazis who said the Jews were humans, but not people. You agree with the slaveholders who said they were 3/5 of a person. Abortion is murder. And at the county convention, at the town hall that we held, someone said, well, Jordan, I don't like the way that you're demonizing those of us who believe in abortion. And I said, it's hard to demonize those who are acting like demons. Stop murdering people, period. And then the seventh commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery. Jesus went into that in Matthew chapter 5, the Sermon on the Mount, and explained that it was any kind of sexual immorality. And yet there are parades down the street of most of our larger towns in Montana that do nothing and exist for no other purpose than to celebrate what the Bible clearly calls sin. And then there's the eighth commandment that says, thou shalt not steal. That presupposes the right of private property ownership. The only way you can steal is if ownership is a thing, if it exists. So from a Christian perspective, socialism is theft. The redistribution of wealth through forced transcription is theft. And by the way, the man that will steal the life of a child who's yet unborn is a man who will steal your money, your property, and then also your wife. Don't trust him. Then we have the ninth commandment. The ninth commandment tells us, thou shalt not bear false witness against our neighbor. Don't speak that which you know not to be true. Now, here's what happened to me the other day in Helena. I was coming back from the GOP convention, stopped at a gas station. And by the way, I was worried about telling this story, thinking it might not be the right crowd, but I guess at this point I don't care because it's too hot to care if I offend anybody. There was a man behind the counter who was pretending to be a woman, and I asked what the pin on his lapel meant. And he said it stands for transgender pride. I said, thanks for your opinion. Here's mine. You are not a woman. You are a man. Any kind of pride is a sin, and you should repent and believe in Jesus Christ. Then I got a call from the East Helena Police Department saying that they want to cite me with disorderly conduct. I did not raise my voice. I did not scream. I merely pointed out that God created them, both male and female. Both male and female, God created them. Who is the one preaching disorder? It's not me. And then the 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet. Don't want what's not yours. And by the way, that's class warfare. Now, what I just described for you is the platform of the Democratic Party. A point-by-point refutation of God's second table of law. But let me go back to gospel preacher real quick. Give me 30 seconds, brother. If I don't finish with the gospel, my church will fire me. All of that said, I'm not telling you that republicanism is the answer. As a matter of fact, I'm here to tell you right now it's not. The problem isn't just Democrats, it's also gutless Republicans. And it's not just gutless Republicans, it's everyone who thinks that there's not such a thing as absolute truth that does not change and is not immutable. The rest of the world can live in the neighborhood of make-believe, but I live in Realityville, and that's where I insist on living. And so the ultimate problem, sin. The ultimate answer is Jesus. And by the way, when they told us to close our church down for COVID, I asked my elders what they thought, and they responded with a simple 3-letter phrase, LOL. We did not close for COVID. It will not happen. It did not happen, and it won't. One last comment, I promise. I say that because when a preacher says one last comment, you never know. But I'm friends with all of the pastors up in Canada who've been arrested. Pastor Arter, the Polish Canadian who yelled Nazis, you seen that clip? Talked to him last week in Denver. Pastor James Coates has been on my radio program. They held him in jail for 5 weeks. Last week we were the first one, a Montana news outlet was the first one that reported that they used police helicopters to hunt down a church meeting in an open field 2 hours away so that they could still meet and worship. This is why we need a constitutional sheriff in every single county to protect us, to protect our rights. Because I told my church security team, when that day comes and they come to haul me away, you know this for sure. I will die like I lived, and that is as a free man. So we started the Montana Daily Gazette because the Sydney Herald local newspaper said that it looked like a militia was forming and it was a group of just old white men. They couldn't see the people of color in the room because they're bigots and racists and use CRT. And as far as the militia was forming, nobody had a gun. The local sheriff was there, and so were all the elected officials. And so I said, we can do better than that crap. We can do better than that excuse for a publication. So we launched the Montana Daily Gazette. Within 2 months, we became the most read news publication in the state of Montana. Why? Because of epistemological capitalism. Within 1 month, we will have 2 radio stations blasting out true news over Montana. And that is because people love truth, and truth comes from God. God bless America.
Oh, thank you. And if you've read the good book, you know in the end we win. That's all that matters. Josh Himes is up next. You've already fallen in love with his wife, Bryn Marie. Josh comes to us from Pennsylvania. If you were here earlier, you know that he is a boxer, a professional boxer, a firefighter, and a dad. Josh Himes.
Thank you, Trent. How's everyone doing today? So my name is Josh Himes, as Trent said, and you've already met my lovely wife, Bryn Marie. So we are super excited to be here today. We come to you guys all the way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Quite a ways. And mind you, it is my wife and I and our 3 children under 3 years old. That is wild in itself. So, as Trent said, I am a professional boxer, and I've been blessed in my career to have become the All-America's champion. But now, my fight has changed. My fight has shifted. I'm not fighting in the ring anymore. I left the ring and left the platform to come out here and fight for my family, to fight for my children, for a better future for them. Because we have to fight. If we don't fight, who will fight? By the time the children grow up, it's too late if we didn't fight. So we have to fight. We have to join together as one and fight. All you guys being here today, I applaud you guys because half the battle is showing up. Just like in school, right? Half the battle is showing up. So give yourself a round of applause for being here today. Now we're taking the fight to them. Now the fight is empowering everyday fighters that we can all fight because we're all fighters, right? Whether it's fighting for your family, fighting against abuse, addiction, cancer, we all fight something every day. Everybody fights, right? And sometimes just unleashing that fighter in us empowers us, makes us stronger. And we have to do that. And that has been my greatest accomplishment, my greatest belt, my greatest title was my children. The moment I became a father, that was my victory. I won. And I'll never stop fighting for my family. That's what this tour stands for, right? Faith, family, freedom. Right? I mean, come on. Faith, family, freedom. So the family part, we're here. We're here as a family from Pittsburgh to you guys. So we're here for that. We're living the family. We're living that. First thing, faith. Faith is what America's built on, right? One nation under God. Indivisible in liberty and justice for all. As the Pledge of Allegiance, as we say, right? That's what it's built on. So in boxing, I'll use boxing talk for you guys because it's a language I know. There's 2 Bible verses that really stand out to me. And these Bible verses really resonate. Because we have to be defensive and offensive in boxing, right? The same way in the world. In everyday life, we have to be both offensive and defensive. Right now, we have to roll with the punches because all these people are throwing crazy punches at us, right? They're throwing things at us that don't make sense, that we don't agree with, that are just not justifiable at all. So what do? We roll with the punches, right? We cannot give up and lay down. With that said, Psalms 23, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. That's my offense. We don't live in fear, right? We don't live in fear, do we? We fight with faith and facts, not fear. My defense, Isaiah 54:17. No weapon that is formed against me shall prosper. Right? We're protected. We don't have to live in fear. So that's faith. That's what faith means to us. The last one, freedom. Come on, freedom. Let freedom ring. That's America, right? That's America. Are we not proud to be from America? I'm so dang proud to be from America. During my boxing career, I wore the American flag on my trunks proudly. And best believe, when I fought out of the country, when I fought here, I wore that American flag on my trunks so proud. And when that national anthem came on, I stood with the goosebumps and the chills, ready to rock and roll, looking at that flag because I know what that flag means. Right? We know what that flag represents. That flag represents this country. And that song represents the flag, and they tie hand to hand together. So I stood there proud because I know the great men and women of our military who fought and have died for that flag. Fighting for our freedom is what it means. So it means the world to us, and words to me and my family. And we'll fight so my children know the values of the flag and the country and what freedom means. And we'll all continue to show them and to show our children as they come up that we don't lose sight of our values and our freedom, what America was built on. Later in my career, I became a firefighter. And I'm a firefighter EMT, and now I'm paramedic school. So in paramedic school, I work in the emergency room. I'm in the ER every single weekend working. And I'm seeing crazy things in the ER that I'm not happy to see. Things that make me very, very frustrated. Because as a father with children, things that I see that don't align with my values. Part of being free in America and having the freedom is medical freedom, right? Medical freedom is something that everybody in our country should have. Nobody should tell me what I should do or what I should take. And right now they're pushing vaccines on people. I don't believe that's fair. Whether you want to take the vaccine or not, that should be your choice. Not advocating one way or another, but it should be your choice, period. And I see that. I saw a teenager come into the ER and then go to the cath lab because he was diagnosed with myocarditis, which is inflammation of the heart. Because the kid felt peer pressured to getting a vaccine because he couldn't play sports or he couldn't travel. That's what shouldn't be allowed. The pressures and not being allowed to do things because they don't have a vaccine. It should be the choice, period. And I'll end with that. And before I bring my wife up, within closing, I want to thank you guys all for your time today and for being here. You guys are fighters. Thank you. Take care and God bless.
If you could only be a fly on the wall in our house. Woo! We get heated up. Like my husband said, with the boxing talk, it is so important to be in someone's corner. So when my husband was doing round for round in every single one of his fights, guess who was there in the corner that would lace up his gloves again or give him some water or give him a pep talk? Me, his wife. You know? And that is so important because what that does is that makes the fighter feel like they got the support to keep fighting. Because trust me, there's times it feels like you can't go another round, right? Or you get knocked out and you're laying there on the canvas and you think, my gosh, how am I going to get back up and do this? How can I do another day? You can. But that's why today is so beautiful because everybody here got to start connecting because where the fight starts is locally. Okay, guys? Locally. You got to get to know one another, start supporting all these groups. That's what I did. So with 3 kids, okay, and I was in recovery after my last child that was born. Actually, I was induced on November 3rd, 2020. What a day that was. So here I was in the hospital. Actually, believe it or not, I was supposed to get induced that morning. And here I was, big belly and all. It was like 7:15 I was supposed to be in the hospital. And I ended up going, making sure that my vote was counted for because I mailed in my vote. I walked in belly and all, and I showed up 2 hours late. And everybody at the hospital said, well, why'd you show up so late? I said, I had things to do. Because I did. So I'm going to encourage everybody to just stay connected, get to know one another, support this tour. Because right now the numbers are growing. You guys may feel like you're alone in that ring, and you are not. I promise you. God is in that corner every single day, 24/7. You can count on God. We are on fire for the Lord, my husband and I, us as a family. And I want to stand here as a concerned mom. Okay, I have 3 kids. My whole life has changed. I used to be that person that maybe didn't draw the boundaries of my beliefs so strong. But now I do. You know why? We let this happen to us, guys. We are letting them steal the things from us, and that's what the devil does. They come to steal, kill, and destroy, and we're allowing it, and we're allowing it with our children. And that fires me up more than anything because not just our children, but the unborn. The unborn. We got to stand tall, we got to stand together, and we got to keep fighting for these people, guys, because they are humans. It is God's masterpiece, okay? So my big belief is, as a gun-packing mama, nobody messes with my family. Nobody messes and comes in and tries to kill and destroy what we have because we keep God as our foundation. And so I just encourage every single one of you guys to fight locally. Don't go, well, how do I do this? Do it. Get connected. Make friends and stay connected and support people. Support the school board meetings. I'm in like 6 or 7 groups now back in Pennsylvania. Why? Because I want to make a difference. And today, you guys being here, you're making a difference. So thank you so much. Hang in tight because the light will get lighter and the dark will get darker. Stay strong and keep fighting.
Bryn Marie, Josh Himes. Okay, maybe nobody said anything more important than what you just heard from that couple. And that is that not every fight goes the way you expect it to. Sometimes you get hit in the face, sometimes you're knocked out. But maybe the most important thing that we're doing is that you know there's somebody in your corner, and you've met them all day, right here, locally, from Pittsburgh, all over the country. It's all about giving you the confidence. Just know that we're in your corner. John Bolin, would you step out here? John Bolin's traveling with us from Indiana. He started as a deputy sheriff. He finished his law enforcement career with the United States Marshal Service. I just want to recognize John for the respect. We talk about the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. We are a nation of laws, and we need respect of those individuals who rightfully serve that Constitution. This is one of those guys, and he's like myself. He's got his wife and family and grandkids at home. Round of applause for John Bolin and his family. With that said, we got one left. He only going to talk like 30 seconds because he don't have much to say. But we are going to give him the opportunity to talk. Ladies and gentlemen, from Newark, New Jersey, the founder of the Urban Health Alliance, Kevin Jenkins.
Hello, everyone. You know, it's always difficult to follow such great human beings because that's what they are, human beings, loving human beings, caring human beings, people that have stopped everything in their life to come on this tour to speak to you, to bring America together, to try to figure out a way that we can show some hope and show some love and then take the action. I believe that's important to save our country, save our families, save our children. That's what this is all about. Now, I know you are very hot out there because I'm scorching, but I want all of you to stand up, please. Please stand up. It's very important that you do this. This is probably the only thing I do every night because this is important. So I want you to take a deep breath of this hot air. I want you to inhale God, and I want you to exhale fear. Now, I want you to keep your eyes closed a little bit longer because I want you to visualize the country you want to live in starting today. Just spend a couple of minutes there. Be present. Thank you. Now, the reason why I ask you to do that is because I believe we've forgotten about that. You know, we got culture corrupt. You know, we watched everything on TV, and they told us everything was going to be all right, when in fact, we knew in our hearts everything was wrong. That's why we started fighting back. That's why we started asking questions. But last year was the most frightening year for all of us, no matter what generation you came from, what generation you belong to. They locked us in a house, and they told us that we were going to die. They told us that if we came out and spoke to each other, we were responsible for killing each other. They told us that we have to put the mask of shame on. They told us to forget about God, forget about family, forget about our parents, forget about our children. And you know what, folks? We almost brought it. We forgot about common sense. We forgot about Jesus Christ. We forgot about faith. We forgot about family. And we damn sure forgot about freedom. And we did it to ourselves. And we are responsible for what we did. Now we have the greatest opportunity because everybody talks about the flag. But the flag represents one thing: sacrifice. The question is, are you prepared to sacrifice for this country? Are you prepared to sacrifice for your children? Are you prepared to find God's courage to come out tomorrow morning and say, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, if you're uncomfortable, I'm uncomfortable? Are you prepared to do that? I can't hear you. Okay, because it's important. That's why when you turn on your TV now, they're talking about race. Stop talking about it. You know why? Because the more we talk about it, the more we get distracted from the fight that we have on our hands. To fight the tyrants that are trying to take our hope away from us, take our love away from us, take our family away from us. Stop talking about it. And you know what? All of us have been racist because we keep using the language that they gave us to keep us separated. And we got to stop it. I'm here to tell you, I am stopping it. No more black friend, white friend, Jew friend, Greek friend. You're my human. You're a friend. Are you my friend? That's what this is about. We have to stop being slaves to their language. We have to stop being slaves to what they want us to do. Now, here's the bigger question for today. We know that they lied to us. We know it now. We know it was all, what? Bull. We know. But who's going to pay for it? Who's going to be responsible for the loss of our loved ones? Who's going to pay for the young men and women that committed suicide? Who's going to pay for the young woman that's sitting in a house saying, who am I going to be when I grow up? Who's going to pay for the loving ones that love our grandparents and our loved ones that we abandoned? We abandoned them. The government told us to abandon them, and we did. Shame on us. We should be ashamed that we did that to our grandparents. You take your daughter to the hospital to have a baby, they say, oh, we got to kill her first before we let her have the child. What is wrong with us? We have to dig deeper. We have to find something that we believe in. And if you don't believe in this country, if you don't believe in that sacrifice, you need to go someplace else. Now you got I normally don't do this, but you got the President of the United States of America that just said that a woman that turned her back on the flag was a reflection of what America is. Is he crazy? Is he crazy? Let me tell you why I'm pissed. Because, see, my ancestors died for this flag, too. We fought in every war. So don't try to use my blackness to give cover to for your evilness. I know what this country's about. We all got bad stories to tell, but we always rose above the occasion and we fought together to save this country. Now we got to do it again. Are you prepared to do it again? Are you really prepared to do it again? Now, we know the World Health Organization. We know Gates. We know it all. We know them all now. But guess what? Your governor, your health official, some of your pastors, they've all taken the devil's money. And you know what? We need to send a resounding message to them. You're out of here. See, we've been too damn polite. That's the problem. We got lazy, polite, and we couldn't figure it out. But now they told us they want to be your what? Your God. They want to be your God. Do you want those people to be your God? You want Bill Gates to tell you when to eat, when to love, when to go to church? Do you want Bill Gates to tell you that? Well, he's almost there. He's almost there. He's almost there. He almost got us where he wanted us. But now it's our choice. Right now it's our time. This is our David and Goliath story. We always talked about David and Goliath, but it's here right now. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to that's my girl right there. I love that now. There you go. We got to take them out. We got to take them out. Some of y'all get like, oh, God, that's not. No, I believe in a liberating Jesus Christ. Jesus fought for me. He didn't say, well, let's have a conversation. Okay? So I'm a Christian. Are you Christians? Are you real Christians? I'm going to joke. I know you are. But here's the deal. We don't have a lot of time. So I brought this flag up here to show you what my friend Mac has done and so many other people. My Abe Lincoln. Look at Abe. Stand up, sir. Let me tell you why this tour is so magical. Let me tell you why. Every single day, someone joins the Army. The Army for family, faith, and what? Are you really free? One more time. Family, faith, and what? There you go. Now, every day this happens. So that means God is with us. That means God is in our presence. There's something magical happening in this country. I'm a black guy in the heartland talking to you right now. You know what my friends at home say? How them white people treating you? I say they're the greatest Americans on the planet Earth, just like you. And we are never going to allow anybody to separate us ever again. Are we? Because I'm not putting up with that nonsense. I'm not putting up with it. Now, tomorrow morning, we got an opportunity to change the world because everybody's waiting for us. In London, 1 million people. The third time they brought 1 million people out. We can't even get ourselves to go to the state building. I've been all over this country fighting for our freedom, but also fighting for our medical freedom. My body is my body. My body sovereignty is my body sovereignty. And guess what? You will not do it what you want to do with it. You will not commoditize my body. You will not profit off of my body. You will not poison me. You create the bioweapon to create the bioweapon to turn me into a bioweapon. Hello. And some of you, we all have family members that drank the Kool-Aid. We got to pray for them. But guess what, guys? We got to do some serious praying because they knew what they were doing. We fell for it. You know, as my grandmother Lily Mae would do, is come lay hands on me. We have to lay hands on them. We have to pray for them because they made a bad decision. And guess what? It is through our leadership that we won't lose another generation. We have to save the next generation. Those kids back there are why we do what we do on this stage. That's the future. If we can't fight for them, we are not worth anything. So I want to tell all of you, I love you, and come join us on this journey. It's a spiritual journey. You know, I wouldn't give it the equivalent of disciples. I don't know. We're a bunch of disciples here. You know, but we're spreading the good news of faith, family, and freedom, and I love all of you. Thank you. Now, you know, the sun's got me dazed. I do this too every night too. And thank God, Trent, because, you know, I would have forgotten because sometimes you get caught up in what you're saying. I want all of you to hug each other because I want to make sure I was talking to humans, please. Hug each other, please. I mean, seriously, do it. And I'm going to tell you why I ask you to do it every night. Every night. Let me tell you why I ask you to do it. Every night. I'm going to do this every night. Or every day. All right, you ready? Now, let me tell you why I ask all of you to do this. Because they tried to take it away from us. They tried to take human contact away from us. They tried to take our God connection away from us. They said we should not hug each other. We should not smile at each other. We should not love each other. We should not hold each other. And we did it. So thank you, and God bless you, and I hope to see you again soon.
Are you done now?
Yes, hey, look, he gave me an extra 3 minutes.
Kevin Jenkins, Urban Health Alliance, right here. We got...
Look, this is our flag, faith, family, and freedom flag.
Riley brought those flags. Thank you, Riley. He's got these flags right over here by the bus. Robert David Steele will be over there. Remember the most important thing. Everybody says, all right, this is a good idea, but what do? You do something different tomorrow than you did yesterday. If it's nothing more than just showing up and say, what are you doing? To all of your elected officials, or you become Teresa Manzella and you run for the office yourself. One nation under God. People above politics, Missoula, Montana, Arise USA 2021. Now, these two beautiful ladies are going to sing, and you all are going to make your way up here in a horseshoe, and we're going to take a group photo. So come on up here. Even you guys that didn't want to hug each other just shook hands. Those guys were shaking hands. They were not hugging, Kevin. They did not hug.
You got to hug each other.
They were shaking hands.
Take it away from you. Do it right now. Hug each other.
Everybody bring your flags.
Yeah.
And wave them proudly and sing with us.
Come on.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean, wide with love. God bless America.